I've made a mod to showcase my vision of the inventory changes for Minecraft. Instead of just showcasing the features, I want to walk you through my thought process to justify why each change is important. You will definitely have questions and concerns, and I've dedicated the last part of the video specifically to address those. I wanted to solve two problems with the player's inventory. First is the effective capacity directly available for the player. It needs to be increased. Second is the size of the hotbar. There are just too many items competing for those 9 slots. Here is what my everyday vanilla hotbar looks like. There aren't many building blocks for a building game, and the rest has its reason to be on the hotbar. Let's not even mention the items I would like to use but had to sacrifice for hotbar space. There is actually a third problem, restocking your inventory, but I'm not going to dive into that. There are 3 categories of items you could have on your hotbar: tools, pickaxes, shovels, axes; utility items, food, ender pearls, fireworks, shields, totems; and blocks, lots and lots of blocks, and only 2 hotbar spaces to fit them all. The first change I've done is I've moved those 3 categories to 3 distinct inventory sections. I've left the main hotbar exclusively for building blocks and in-world placeables like paintings and item frames. This opens an interesting possibility, and if you have played Factorio, it will be very familiar. Instead of the hotbar being physical inventory space, it contains only shortcuts to items. To make it more distinct, let's call it the quick bar, like in Factorio. This slot doesn't actually hold 200 sand, but it represents 200 sand stored in our inventory. The reason for this change is to allow the player to save and load quick bars in survival like you can in creative mode or Factorio. Swappable survival hotbars is a common suggestion, but if you would have swappable hotbars with the vanilla inventory, you would have to maintain the entire inventory being sorted for purposes of hotbars, leaving no space for storing items in bulk. You might have noticed that the inventory became wider than usual. I've made the 12 slots wide to keep the inventory capacity the same after converting the hotbar. This also makes the quick bar longer, which makes use of extra keys of the keyboard's number row. But the main payout of this change will come later. The tool items we've taken from the hotbar have been moved to a special place, the tool belt. When you try to mine a block, the game picks the best tool from the tool belt for breaking that particular block and applies it to the mining process without taking a quick bar slot. This is how it looks in game. This change is needed because currently there is always a couple of slots which will be forever occupied with tools, which effectively makes the hotbar shorter. Having to select the right tool doesn't really make the game more interesting. You're going to do it anyway. But every time you open your inventory to take a shovel, you break your game flow for a second. The challenge with making the tool belt system was to define the best tool. Let's say you have both Silk Touch and Fortune pickaxes. Which one should be used to mine the ore blocks? To make it consistent, each slot is dedicated to a specific tool, and if you want to select Silk Touch or Fortune, you place a corresponding pickaxe or a shovel in the tool belt. The tool belt has the following slots: a pickaxe, a sword or a trident, an axe, a shovel, a hoe or shears, a bow, a crossbow, or a trident as a dedicated ranged weapon. If this slot is empty, then an axe will be used for melee. This leaves us with the utility items like shields, totems and food, which are traditionally held in the offhand. And in the offhand they shall stay. What? All of them at once? Yes. Or rather, let's add the utility belt where you put your utility items, and you scroll through them to select which specific item will be displayed in your offhand. This gives a place for the items which aren't considered building blocks and gives the offhand a proper use. But most importantly, combined with the previous changes, it will allow you to use your tools, food, shield, ender pearls, and 12 building block types with ease and all at once. Yes, this will make the game easier than before, and that's the point. By making the game easier, or should I say more convenient, it allows us to do bigger things. And Minecraft already did this in the past.
Efficiency 5, Haste 2 Beacon, there's nothing better in Minecraft. I can't imagine Minecraft being the success it is today without this sort of thing. I mean, can you imagine taking out a space like this without it? It would be a nightmare. Can you imagine taking out a space like this without enchantments? Like that's, when I first started playing Minecraft, there weren't even enchantments. This just wouldn't have happened.
Currently, if you need to chop down a log and your axe is not on your hotbar, you will put it onto your hotbar instead of something else, and later you will put that something else back onto your hotbar instead of an axe. Your offhand will be forever occupied with the utility of your choice, usually food or a totem, and you will have only 2 to 3 slots available for building blocks. And this is what people want to be changed. At least I think what people want to be changed. But wait, there is more. We haven't addressed the raw capacity yet, and Capfun has a great idea made specifically to address this. The Deep Pockets enchantment for leggings. Each level of this enchantment adds an additional row to your inventory, and this is where the extended inventory width comes to play, because each extra row gives you not 9, but 12 additional slots. In total, with the max level of 3, you have 72 stacks of capacity in total, or that many items. An argument in favor of this idea is that Minecraft's game design prohibits any embedded empowerments of the player. It has to be provided by gear, landmarks like beacons or conduits, or temporary resources like potions. And Deep Pockets enchantment fits into that mindset very well. Deep Pockets 1 also provides 4 additional slots to the offhand, and while 4 initial slots are objectively way too little, with 2 slots being forever taken by essentials of your choice, having all slots available from the start would be overwhelming for a new player. This is how the overhauled inventory looks on the start, and this is how it looks in the late game. Quite a difference, isn't it? There is one idea I'm not sure about, and I haven't implemented it into a mod due to its complexity. What if the quickbar could access items inside shulker boxes? Let's say you have a shulker box full of stone bricks. It is that many items. And any stone brick you place from your quickbar would be taken directly from a shulker box. If you've organized your shulker boxes well, you could equip yourself for a long building session that uses thousands of blocks and dozens of block types. It sounds overpowered, but is it overpowered, or is it what we need to push the boundaries of our projects further? A big challenge was to define which items can be placed on the quickbar and which can't. Notable examples are buckets, minecarts, boats, and flint and steel. While minecarts and boats aren't necessary blocks, they meant to be placed in the world, and having them on the quickbar doesn't create any issues. But buckets? It is a weird case, because when you use a filled bucket, it doesn't disappear. It stays in as an empty bucket. Should a shortcut get replaced with an empty bucket? But what if you have more filled buckets? After a lot of thinking, I found the best solution. Customization. In the default mode, there is a set list of items which can be placed on the quickbar. In the second mode, you can put any item on the quickbar and it will act as a regular shortcut. But there is the third mode. You can put most items, some of which will have special handling. Shulker boxes, tools, written books, and some other items will treat quickbar slots as actual physical slots. The third option is the one I intend everyone to use, but having the most restrictive option as the default is designed specifically to teach new players how the quickbar works. When you've crafted your first tool, your natural move is to put it onto your hotbar, and when the game will refuse, only then you will notice that empty slot with an icon heavily resembling the tool you've just crafted. I have a bow in my main hand and ender pearls in my offhand. Which item can I use with this configuration? I can use either because utility/offhand now has its own separate button. This option can be disabled by having both use utility and use item on the same key, usually the right mouse button. regardless if you have 12 hotbar slots or only 9, accessing slots after 5 with a keyboard might be cumbersome because the keys are just too far away. I found the solution in Team Fortress 2. In that game, there is a setting that allows Spy to disguise by selecting the class category first, followed by a specific class. So instead of using 9 keys, you use only 3. And this is how it looks in Minecraft. You have 3 sections of 4 slots each. The first keystroke will select a section, and the second will select an item inside that section. You might think that having to press 2 buttons instead of 1 to select an item will be significantly slower, but as a Spy main, I guarantee that it will become a second nature very quickly. There is an additional option to have a quick bar segmented visually while having the default selection schema, which is my personal favorite. 2 small changes to free up the utility bar. When you press the jump button while gliding, it fires a boost rocket directly from your inventory and displays the amount left here. Totem of Undying can activate from your inventory. I'm not sure about this one. While on paper it sounds more fun and skillful when you have to actively select a totem in the heat of a battle, if a totem works only in your off-hunt, you will either always have it there or never, and my design is built around players actively swapping utility items. Now let's talk about the flaws and potential concerns. The first and biggest concern. This is worse for PvP than vanilla. I cannot argue with that, it is actually worse. The job of this concept is to improve survival building, not PvP minigames. I'm not saying PvP isn't important, but it would require its own set of changes. Maybe there is potential to utilize the unlocked quick bar for PvP, and it might be even more versatile than vanilla, but it wouldn't feel like a system designed for PvP. Concern number 2. Mobile and gamepads. Control opportunities on these devices are more limited than on PC, and we add 3 more buttons, not counting extra quick bar keys. We can get rid of 1, but you still have to scroll through the utility bar. I guess it would be better to make control schemes specifically for each platform rather than trying to adapt what we have on PC. Mobile Edition has that feature where you can target from an arbitrary point of the screen. Concern number 3. It's bloated. I can argue with that, even if there is more to this inventory than in vanilla. First, there is Factorio, the game that proves that a setup with a shortcut-based quick bar and a dedicated tool belt can work. I hope I don't have to say that Minecraft needs to have its own flavor, just to address the "but Minecraft isn't Factorio" argument. Second, we don't drop all new stuff at once. You will spend plenty of time before engaging with the pockets, the bigger utility bar, and sophisticated inventory features. Third, Minecraft gets bloated every single update. The whole point of the Nether update was to bloat the Nether and add more gear and building blocks. Concern number 4. It changes way too much. Isn't it what we want? I know that many people, including Moyang, would prefer to solve the issue by introducing a couple of small changes. But you can't fix a 10-year-old system with minor changes only. Concern number 5. It's not vanilla. Every update feels modded for the first month. If you ask me, there is one feature that still stands out and felt very modded when it was first added. Elytra and firework boosting. The ability to fly has changed the game completely and flipped the transportation on its head, and even made some features obsolete. This is a kind of change the inventory needs, in my opinion. Because the modding platform doesn't allow you to add custom settings unless you make your own custom screen, I've just added extra buttons to scroll through settings. This is not how I envision it as a part of vanilla. How do I edit videos? By promising more videos, maybe? I plan to make a retrospective on how Versus Saxton Hale mode was made. Yes, I am the original creator of that mod. And Freak Fortress 2. I have more Minecraft concepts I want to explore, but I won't promise to make a mod out of each of them. This mod took me weeks, and it is not even done by the time of releasing this video. I have a plan to remake one of my first maps for Team Fortress 2, but now with additional 10 years of experience. And maybe I'll even make my own video game and do a dev blog here. We'll see.